Okay, so today we're going to really dive deep into something super fundamental if you want to achieve pretty much anything.
Absolutely.
And that's this idea of owning your own mind.
It's huge.
Yeah, it sounds kind of vague, I guess, when you first hear it, but it's really about learning to take control of your thoughts, right? And actually steering them with a purpose, not just letting them run wild.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And luckily for us, someone's already kind of done a lot of the heavy lifting on this whole owning your mind thing.
Right.
Napoleon Hill.
Of course, Napoleon Hill.
So we're going to be pulling a lot of our insights for this deep dive from his book, How to Own Your Own Mind.
Perfect. And we found this awesome YouTube audiobook, which is where we're going to be getting all our info from today.
Yeah, it's a great resource.
Yeah. So our mission today is not to just rehash the whole book, but really dig out the good stuff, the actionable stuff, the stuff you, the listener, can actually use right now to start mastering your own mind and making things happen.
Yes, exactly. Because we want you to be able to take control of your mental game and really start achieving your goals, whatever those may be.
Exactly. So let's kick things off with a concept Hill talks about that's super important. It's called creative vision. And you find this in chapter 1.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, right at the beginning. And it actually comes from a conversation Hill had with Andrew Carnegie way back in 1908.
Wow.
Yeah, so this goes way back.
Interesting.
And for Carnegie, he wasn't just talking about daydreaming or letting your imagination run wild. It was more than that.
Yeah, he was a practical guy.
Right. This was about being able to actually see opportunities and even more importantly, taking action to make the most of them.
Exactly. So not just seeing them, but doing something about them.
Exactly. Now, what's interesting is Carnegie breaks down this whole idea of imagination into 2 types. You have synthetic imagination and creative imagination.
Right. And the synthetic is what we probably use most often.
I would think so.
It's taking existing ideas and sort of rearranging them, coming up with new combinations and applications.
Right. What if we combine this with that?
Exactly. And you see this all the time with patents.
Yeah.
Most patents aren't these completely brand new inventions.
Right.
They're more clever tweaks or improvements on existing things.
Right. Taking something that's already there and finding a new way to use it.
Exactly. That's synthetic imagination at work. But then you have creative imagination. And this is where those truly groundbreaking, completely original ideas come from.
Yeah, those aha moments.
Exactly. And those seem to come more from the subconscious.
Interesting. So a deeper level.
Yeah, it's tapping into something almost mystical.
Right. And Carnegie was very clear that having this creative vision, it's not just a passive thing.
No, you can't just sit around and wait for opportunities to fall into your lap.
Exactly. You got to be proactive. You have to see those opportunities and then, do something about them, take action.
Right. Action is key.
Okay, so moving on to chapter 2, we get to this principle of organized thought.
Okay, so this is about bringing some order to the chaos.
Exactly. It's like having a system for your thinking, a way to structure it so you can actually control your own destiny.
I like that.
Yeah. And what's cool is Hill actually lays out these 3 charts or frameworks for understanding this whole thing.
Oh, wow. So he really breaks it down.
He does, but we won't get bogged down in the specifics of each chart today.
Right.
But basically, these charts show how organized thought works together with other elements like willpower,
right,
self-discipline, all your mental faculties, your senses, your motivations, all these success principles that Hill talks about, and they all kind of come together to produce results.
Right. So it's like a whole system working together.
Yeah. It's not just about thinking. It's about thinking in a way that leads to action.
Exactly. Thoughts without action are useless.
Exactly. And Hill also mentions different ways of thinking, like inductive and deductive reasoning, and this really interesting concept of social heredity.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating.
It's basically this idea that we inherit a lot of our thinking patterns from the people and environments around us.
Right. It's like we absorb the beliefs and biases of our families, our communities, our culture.
Exactly. And it happens almost unconsciously.
Yeah, like mental osmosis.
I like that. And then, of course, our habits, both good and bad, they play a huge role in how well we can organize our thoughts.
Oh, absolutely. Our habits make or break us.
All right, so let's move on to chapter 3, where we get to controlled attention.
Controlled attention. Okay.
Yeah, and Hill defines this as like concentration that's really directed towards a specific outcome.
Okay, so it's like laser focus.
Exactly. It's not just about concentrating. It's about concentrating on the right things, the things that will actually help you achieve your goals.
Right, so you're in control. You're choosing what to focus on.
Exactly. And this is how we take those creative visions and those organized thoughts and actually turn them into something real.
So it's like the bridge between thought and action.
Exactly. And what's cool is Hill points out that other principles, he talks about like going the extra mile, the mastermind principle, having faith, all of these things can actually boost your controlled attention.
Interesting. So they work together.
They do. They kind of feed into each other and give you even more confidence to succeed.
I like that.
And Hill actually shares a lot of stories and examples of people who have achieved amazing things. And one thing they all have in common is this ability to really focus their attention on one main goal.
So they're not scattered. They're not trying to do a million things at once.
Right. They have that laser focus.
Okay.
And even Carnegie chimed in on this. He said that developing controlled attention often leads people to specialize in a particular area.
Right. Become an expert in something.
Exactly. And he believed that specialization leads to greater rewards than trying to be a jack of all trades.
Interesting. So it's better to be really good at one thing than mediocres at many things.
That's what Carnegie thought. Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, so let's dive back into creative vision for a bit. You mentioned Carnegie's examples of synthetic imagination, the refrigerator car and the sleeping car.
Right. Those are great examples because they're so simple, yet so brilliant.
They really are like an icebox on wheels beds in a train car. It seems so obvious in hindsight.
Right. But nobody thought of it before.
Exactly. And Carnegie points out that these simple combinations not only created huge fortunes for the people who came up with them,
Right.
but they also provided really valuable services for people.
Yeah, they made people's lives better.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is Carnegie links this ability to imagine to other success principles.
Okay, like what?
Well, he specifically mentions having a definiteness of purpose, often driven by a strong desire, like wanting to make money or achieve something big. And he also talks about the mastermind principle.
Right, the power of collaboration.
Exactly. So it's not enough to just have a fleeting idea. You need a clear goal in mind, and you need to be able to work effectively with others to actually make that idea a reality.
Right, because two heads are better than one.
Exactly. And Carnegie also stresses the importance of personal initiative, taking those imaginative ideas and making them practical.
Right. So it's not enough to just dream. You have to actually do something.
Exactly. You have to put in the work, the effort, the organization to make it happen. And a great example of this is Henry Ford. Carnegie uses him as an example.
Oh, yeah. Henry Ford, he's like the poster child for creative vision.
Right. He had this incredibly clear goal to make cars affordable for everyone. And he faced a lot of setbacks. Early failures, a lack of funding.
Right, he didn't have it easy.
He didn't, but he was persistent. He never gave up, and eventually he revolutionized the auto industry.
And had that drive, that determination.
He did, and Carnegie believed that this strong sense of purpose, this almost obsessive drive, is what really fuels both synthetic and creative imagination.
It's like it forces you to keep thinking. Keep innovating until you find a solution.
Exactly. You're not satisfied with the status quo. You're constantly pushing the boundaries.
I like that.
And Carnegie also had some interesting thoughts on the American economic system. He believed that the system itself was sound.
Okay.
It offered a lot of opportunities, but he also felt that people often misused those freedoms.
How so?
Well, he saw a lot of people trying to get something for nothing, lacking that personal initiative, and that stifled their creative vision.
Right. So it's like the opportunity's there, but you have to be willing to seize it to put in the work.
Exactly. It's like having a toolbox full of tools, but not knowing how to use them.
I see. Okay.
So let's shift gears now and talk about organized thought, some mulliganality. Hill makes this really important point about the relationship between our willpower and our emotions.
Oh, yeah. Emotions can be tricky.
They can, and Hill says that for most people, their emotions tend to control their willpower.
Right, they get carried away by their feelings.
Exactly, and the key is to flick that dynamic to make your willpower the boss, so to speak.
So you're in control of your emotions instead of them controlling you.
Exactly, and self-discipline is really important for this. It's the muscle that helps you stay focused on your goal.
Right, it keeps you on track.
Exactly, and it allows you to channel your emotions in a positive, productive way.
Okay, so self-discipline is like the key to harnessing the power of your emotions.
Exactly. And Hill talks about this incredible power of the subconscious mind. How it can act on thoughts that are fueled by strong belief.
So if you believe you could achieve something,
Yeah.
your subconscious mind will help make it happen.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And Hill actually lays out 6 fundamental beliefs that he considers essential for success.
6. Okay, let's hear them.
All right. So first is a belief in a higher intelligence, or God, if you will.
Yep.
Second, a strong belief in yourself.
Mm.
Third, trust in your chosen associates.
Okay.
4th, believing in right over wrong. 5th, understanding and respecting proven scientific principles. And finally, an unshakable faith in the power of your own mind.
Wow, that's a powerful set of beliefs.
It really lays the groundwork for organized thinking, you know? It gives you a solid foundation to build on.
Okay.
And remember, we talked about social heredity earlier.
Right, the idea that we inherit a lot of our thinking from our environment?
Exactly. And Hill suggests that this is especially true for children.
Oh, yeah, because their minds are like sponges.
Exactly. They soak up everything around them, and it kind of shapes their worldview.
So it's really important to be mindful of the environment we create for children.
Absolutely. And this also highlights the importance of independent thinking.
Yeah.
You know, not just blindly accepting everything you hear.
Right. We need to question things, think for ourselves.
Exactly. And Hill actually praises societies like the American one with its decentralized structure that encourages diverse viewpoints.
Okay.
He contrasts this with more controlled societies where thinking is often dictated from the top down.
Right, where there's less freedom of thought.
Exactly. And he makes a really interesting point that many of our deeply held opinions, even those we feel most strongly about, are often based on this social inheritance rather than careful reasoning.
That's a scary thought.
It is. It makes you wonder how much of what we believe is actually our own.
Right, like are we thinking for ourselves or just parroting what we've been told?
Exactly. And Hill uses the example of political and religious affiliations.
Oh yeah, those are often passed down through families and communities.
Exactly. And there's this famous quote by Alexander Pope that I think really captures this idea. He said, "Vice is a monster of so frightful mien as to be hated needs. But to be seen, yet seen too oft familiar with her face, we first endure, then pity, then embrace."
Wow, that's deep.
It basically means that the more we're exposed to something, even something negative, the more likely we are to accept it.
Right, it becomes normalized.
Exactly. So how do we break free from this cycle of social inheritance and start thinking for ourselves? Well, Hill introduces this idea of controlled habit as the basis of organized thinking.
Controlled habit. Okay.
Yeah, and he uses this great analogy. He says, imagine your mind is a camera and controlled habit is the lens.
Okay.
Your definite major purpose, that's the object you want to photograph clearly. And to get a sharp mental picture, you need two things: repeated exposure, which is time and consistent focus, and the right kind of emotional feeling, which is like the light.
Okay, so you're saying that our habits shape our thoughts, and our thoughts shape our reality.
Exactly. And Carnegie himself defined organized thought as the deliberate organization of your individual thinking habits.
So it's about taking control of those automatic thought patterns.
Exactly. And he believed this was essential for being an effective member of a mastermind alliance.
Right, because you need to be able to contribute your own unique perspective to the group.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that while a lot of our thought patterns develop automatically based on our environment, self-discipline allows us to consciously choose what we focus on.
Right, so we can break free from those negative or limiting thoughts that we might have inherited.
Exactly. And we can do this by setting a compelling motive that's tied to our purpose and intensifying that purpose into an almost obsessive focus.
So it's like we're training our minds to think in a certain way.
Exactly. And Carnegie was very clear that organized thought starts with definiteness of purpose.
Right, knowing what you want.
Exactly. And it's backed up by consistent action and that strong emotional drive, that desire to achieve your goal.
So it's not just about thinking, it's about feeling it too.
Exactly. And he uses the example of someone falling in love. You know, their thoughts naturally gravitate towards the person they're infatuated with.
Right, they can't stop thinking about them.
Exactly. And Carnegie says that we can use that same kind of focus for any goal we want to achieve.
Interesting. So we can tap into the power of our emotions to help us achieve our goals.
Exactly. And he even suggests that emotions that aren't inherently positive, like anger or fear, can be channeled in a productive way.
Oh, wow. So you're saying we can use even negative emotions to our advantage.
Exactly. It's about understanding our emotions and learning how to control them.
Okay, I like that.
And the subconscious mind plays a really important role in all of this. You know, once a thought or action is repeated consistently, especially when it's charged with emotion, the subconscious takes over.
Right, it becomes automatic.
Exactly. It becomes a habit.
Okay.
And Carnegie actually lists a bunch of benefits of organized thinking. You know, you become the master of your own mind. You operate with a clear sense of purpose. You develop strategic plans. You stimulate your subconscious mind. You foster self-reliance. You can leverage the power of a mastermind group. You attract more resources.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is. And there's more like. You improve your analytical skills. You're more likely to have good health.
Okay.
And you achieve greater peace of mind.
So it's like organized thinking is the key to a better life.
That's the idea.
Yes.
Yeah. But Carnegie also emphasizes the importance of taking action.
Right. It's not enough to just think about it. You have to do something.
Exactly. He says that work is essentially thought power translated into physical effort.
Right.
Organized thinking is not just about mental exercises. It's about making things happen in the real world.
Right.
And he also stresses the importance of making quick and definite decisions as part of self-discipline.
So no procrastination.
Exactly. Procrastination is the enemy of progress.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about controlled attention. Some more Hill. Hill argues that this focused mental power can actually help us overcome those self-imposed limitations that we all have.
The limitations we put on ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those limiting beliefs that hold us back.
Right.
And he reiterates the importance of clearly defining our major purpose, writing it down, memorizing it, and repeating it frequently.
So it's like programming our minds for success.
Exactly. And this is where the Mastermind Alliance comes in.
Right.
Hill says that when you have a group of people working together in harmony towards a shared goal, it creates this amazing synergy.
The whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Exactly. And it stimulates everyone's minds. It unlocks knowledge and insights that no one person could have on their own.
Wow. So it's like having a collective brain power.
Exactly. And Hill uses this interesting analogy of soil and vegetation to illustrate how the chemistry of the brain and the combination of different minds can influence thought.
Interesting.
He says it's like how different elements combine in nature.
Right.
Some combinations are beneficial while others are harmful.
Yeah.
And he points out that conflicting minds can create negative influences.
So it's important to surround yourself with positive people.
Exactly. And he also says that positive and negative mental states like faith and fear can't coexist.
Well, it's one or the other.
Exactly. And this leads to the law of harmonious attraction, which is the idea that attracts.
So you focus on positive thoughts, you'll attract positive experiences.
Exactly. And Hill breaks down the development of controlled attention into 4 key steps.
4 steps. Okay, what are they?
First, definiteness of purpose. Knowing exactly what you want.
Right.
Second, the Mastermind Alliance, surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals. Third, applied faith, believing in your ability to achieve your goal. And fourth, going the extra mile, consistently taking action and maintaining a positive mental attitude.
So it's like a recipe for success.
It is, and Hill actually cites numerous historical figures who understood and used the power of a focused mind.
Like who?
Well, people like Longfellow Parkman, Annie Besant, and many others.
Okay.
They all recognized the importance of having a clear purpose and directing their mental energy towards it.
And Carnegie himself defined controlled attention as the act of bringing all your mental faculties together and focusing them on a definite purpose.
Exactly. It's about harnessing all your mental power and using it to achieve your goals.
Okay, and Carnegie believed that this kind of focused attention leads to what he called success consciousness.
Right, which is basically a habit of expecting positive outcomes.
So it's like training your mind to think in a positive way.
Exactly, and he contrasted this with failure consciousness, which is the habit of focusing on negative possibilities.
So it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It can be, yeah. And Hill emphasizes that this is not some kind of magical process where your thoughts just materialize into reality.
Right.
It's more about how focused thought inspires action, which then often leads to favorable circumstances.
It's a chain reaction.
Exactly. And he uses the example of a young secretary who gets promoted because he consistently goes above and beyond.
Right. He's proactive. He takes initiative.
Exactly. And Hill says that this is what we often mistake for luck.
Oh, interesting.
It's not luck, it's preparation. It's developing good habits and directing them towards a specific goal.
So luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And Hill also makes a distinction between using willpower and emotions to apply controlled attention.
Okay.
He suggests that willpower is generally the more reliable approach, especially when it's guided by reason and conscience.
So it's about making conscious choices rather than being swayed by your emotions.
Exactly. And finally, he observes that many highly successful people have been what he calls one-idea people. Yep. They've become completely absorbed, even obsessed with a single overarching goal.
So they put all their energy into one thing.
Exactly. And that laser focus often leads to extraordinary results.
Interesting.
So to wrap things up, it really comes down to the interplay of these 3 things. Creative vision, organized thought, and controlled attention.
Right, they work together.
They do. Creative vision allows you to see the possibilities. Organized thought helps you plan how to achieve them. And controlled attention gives you the focus to make it happen.
And together they allow you to own your own mind.
Exactly. It's about recognizing opportunities, planning how to capitalize on them, and directing your mental energy towards your goals.
So it's about taking control of your destiny.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of your own will and using it to create the life you want.
That's powerful.
It is. And as we finish up this deep dive, we really want you, the listener, to walk away understanding that you have the power to own your own mind.
You're in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You're not a victim of your circumstances or your thoughts. You can choose how you think and how you respond to the world around you.
And that's incredibly empowering.
It is. So we've looked at how creative vision helps you see those opportunities that might otherwise pass you by, how organized thought gives you the framework for planning your actions, and how controlled attention equips you with that laser focus to execute those plans.
Right. And they all work together to create a more fulfilling life.
Exactly. So as you think about everything we've discussed today, what resonates most with you?
Yeah, what stands out?
Is it the need for greater clarity in your purpose, a more structured approach to your thinking, or maybe more disciplined and consistent focus in your daily activities?
It's different for everyone.
It is, and we encourage you to explore Napoleon Hill's How to Own Your Own Mind yourself to get a deeper understanding of these ideas and how you can apply them in your own life.
Yeah, it's a great book.
It is, and as a final thought to leave you with, consider this. How could applying just one of these principles, maybe focusing your attention on a single clear goal for the next week, how could that shift your trajectory towards greater personal mastery and achievement?
Yeah, just think about it.
The power to own your own mind is within you.
It's all about taking that first step.
Exactly. And that's where the real journey begins.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And we'll see you next time.
See you then.